Welcome back to Healing is My Hobby. I'm Jessica. We made it to the end of June. This month, we've been talking about identity, where it comes from, how to see the roles you've been carrying, how to start telling a different story. And today, I want to talk about the experience that a lot of people are quietly living, but don't have language for. The experience of looking in the mirror and not quite recognizing yourself, of going through your life and feeling like you're watching it from somewhere outside of it, of waking up and wondering, is this actually my life? Am I actually this person? If that resonates, this episode is for you. What I just described has a clinical name. It's called identity disruption, and it is a recognized psychological phenomenon, particularly in people who have experienced trauma, chronic stress, major loss, or significant life transitions. It is not a midlife crisis. It is not weakness. It is not a sign that something is fundamentally wrong with you. It is a trauma response. And here's what's happening underneath. Our sense of self, our identity, is held together by a set of internal narratives, stories about who we are, what we value, how we relate to others, what we're capable of. These narratives give us coherence, continuity, the sense that we're the same person who went to sleep last night. When trauma happens, or when chronic stress overloads the nervous system, these narratives get destabilized. The brain, which is working very hard to protect you, can disconnect you from a felt sense of self as a protective mechanism. You might know this feeling as depersonalization, that strange sense of watching yourself from the outside, or derealization, the feeling that the world around you isn't quite real. These experiences exist on a spectrum. They're not always dramatic. Sometimes they show up as numbers, as going through the motions, as a low-grade feeling of not quite here-ness that you've just learned to live with. And then there are the major transitions. Divorce, a significant loss, having children, leaving a career, a health crisis, moving, ending a relationship that defined you for years. Any one of those can crack identity open because part of how we know who we are is through context, through relationship, through role. And when the context changes, when the relationship ends, when the role disappears, the identity structure can shake. And you're left asking, if I'm not that person anymore, who am I? And I want to make a distinction that I think matters. There is identity collapse and there is identity evolution. They can feel identical from the inside. Identity collapse is when the self that was built on survival adaptations, on roles that were never really yours, when those come undone. And there's grief in that, real grief, because even a role that was never yours becomes familiar, comfortable in the way that constriction becomes comfortable. Identity evolution is what happens on the other side of that undoing, when you stop performing the adapted self and start finding your way back to the core. The distortion isn't the problem. The distortion is the passage. I want to name something because I think it gets misunderstood. Integration is not going back to where you were before. You cannot unknow what you now know about yourself. You cannot ungrieve what you've grieved. You cannot unheal, and you wouldn't want to. Integration is going forward with all the parts of yourself accounted for. The adapted self that got you this far. The wounds that shaped you, the roles that kept you safe, and underneath all of it, the core self that was always there waiting. Integration looks like, I know where that part of me came from. I don't have to run from it anymore. I can hold the grief of who I was and still make room for who I'm becoming. I don't have to have it all figured out to start moving in a direction that actually feels like me. That's not a destination. It's a practice, and it is absolutely available to you. This month, we asked a hard question. Who are you when you strip away everything you were told to be? We looked at how identity gets built. We sorted through the roles, we audited the stories, and today we named the experience of watching it all come apart and called it what it is. Not a breakdown, a becoming. You are not broken because you don't recognize yourself. You are in the middle of something important. So keep going. If you'd like to read my blog or stay up to date, you can sign up for the newsletter at healingismyhobby.com. You can follow me on Instagram at healingismyhobby or on YouTube at healingismyhobby. And if you would like to know more about my clinical practice, you can visit jessicacolarco.lcsw.com or follow me on Instagram at jessicacolarco.lcsw. Thank you. Keep listening because you are worth it.